Learn English. Maya stared at the intimidating English textbook, her heart sinking. The sheer volume of vocabulary seemed insurmountable, each new word an unconquerable mountain. She often wondered if learning another language was truly worth the immense effort, especially when doubts whispered insidious questions about her own capabilities. This feeling of overwhelm was a constant companion on her journey. Why should I even bother learning English? The thought frequently echoed in her mind. So many resources, so many methods, yet she felt stuck, unable to genuinely connect the dots. The fear of sounding silly, of making embarrassing mistakes in front of others, paralyzed her efforts completely. It was a vicious cycle of hesitation and self-doubt, eroding her motivation daily. The internet was full of advice, from how to learn English to complex fluency hacks, but applying them felt like navigating a dense, uncharted forest. She knew words were important, but memorizing endless lists felt tedious and ineffective. There had to be a better, more organic way to truly absorb and internalize the language, transforming passive knowledge into active use. One evening, a viral video sparked something profound within her. It wasn't about fancy grammar rules or obscure idioms, but simply how to talk in English. The speaker emphasized consistent, brave attempts, no matter how small. It was a revelation. Speaking wasn't just a destination, but the very path itself. This simple idea ignited a tiny flicker of hope. Her first step was simple: how to learn words more effectively. Instead of rote memorization, she started associating new vocabulary with images, feelings, and real-life situations. She used flashcards, but focused on example sentences rather than isolated terms, making the learning process far more contextual and meaningful for future application. Then came the crucial phase: listen and practice. Maya immersed herself in English podcasts and audiobooks, not just passively, but actively trying to mimic intonation and rhythm. She played short clips repeatedly, attempting to shadow the speakers, paying close attention to pronunciation details and natural conversational flow. This active listening deepened her comprehension. The most intimidating part was speaking. The video suggested, start talking at home. This felt safe. In the privacy of her room, Maya began narrating her daily activities, describing objects, and even having imaginary conversations with herself. It felt awkward initially, but the absence of judgment was incredibly liberating for her. These solo sessions were her secret laboratory. She'd talk to her reflection, to her plants, even to her cat, explaining mundane things in simple English sentences. This is my cup. It is blue. Slowly, the words started flowing a little more naturally, breaking the mental barrier that had always held her back from genuine expression. The concept of English talking practice became her mantra. She recorded herself speaking, listening back critically but kindly. Sometimes, she'd notice awkward pauses or repeated phrases, but mostly, she heard progress. This self-assessment was a powerful tool for identifying areas needing improvement without external pressure or judgment. How make confidence in speaking was a question that lingered. She realized confidence wasn't something you gained magically, it was built through small, consistent wins. Each successful sentence, each correctly formed thought, contributed to a growing sense of self-assurance, slowly eroding the deep-seated fear of imperfection and failure. Maya expanded her practice beyond simply narrating. She started describing pictures from magazines, inventing backstories for people she saw on TV. This imaginative exercise pushed her to use a wider range of vocabulary and grammatical structures, making her language more flexible and expressive, moving beyond basic descriptions. She also used online resources to find simple conversation prompts. Answering questions like, "Describe your ideal day," or "What's your favorite food and why?" forced her to formulate opinions and articulate them, stepping out of purely descriptive language into more complex thought expression. The initial awkwardness eventually transformed into a sense of playful experimentation. She wasn't afraid to try new words or sentence structures anymore. If she stumbled, she simply corrected herself and moved on, understanding that fluency wasn't about perfection, but about effective and continuous communication, even with errors. Listening remained a cornerstone of her learning. She wasn't just passively hearing, she was actively dissecting. How were native speakers connecting words? What were the common idioms? This analytical listening greatly informed her own speaking patterns, making her sound more natural and less robotic over time. How to improve your fluency became less of a daunting question and more of an ongoing process. Fluency, she realized, wasn't about speaking fast, but about speaking smoothly and clearly, without excessive hesitation. It was about effortless thought expression, rather than rapid-fire word delivery. One practical tip she embraced was thinking in English. Instead of translating thoughts from her native language, she forced herself to form sentences directly in English, even if they were simple at first. This direct cognitive process significantly sped up her response time in actual conversations. She started watching English movies and TV shows without subtitles, or with English subtitles only. This forced her brain to actively process the language, connecting spoken words with their meanings, enhancing both her listening comprehension and her ability to recognize natural conversational patterns. There were still days when the old doubts crept back in. Days when the sheer effort felt too great, and the progress too slow. Why burden myself with this, she'd sometimes think, moments of genuine fatigue testing her resolve to continue with the demanding language acquisition. But those thoughts quickly dissipated as she remembered the small victories, understanding a complex phrase, articulating a nuanced idea, or simply feeling less anxious about making mistakes. These small affirmations consistently outweighed the fleeting desire to abandon her English learning journey. Her "start talking at home" routine evolved. Now, instead of just narrating, she started engaging in role-playing scenarios. She'd pretend to order coffee, ask for directions, or introduce herself at a party, mentally rehearsing common conversational exchanges. This simulated practice was invaluable for building muscle memory for common phrases and responses. When she eventually found herself in real-life situations, the words felt less alien, more familiar, almost as if she had been there before, having these very conversations. The fear of judgment, once her biggest impediment, began to shrink. She understood that most native speakers were encouraging and appreciated the effort, not scrutinizing every grammatical error. This shift in perspective empowered her to take more risks and speak more freely. She started utilizing language exchange apps, finding partners who were also learning, or native speakers willing to help. These interactions, though initially nerve-wracking, provided real-time English talking practice with actual human beings, which was a significant step forward. Even a short 5-minute conversation felt like a triumph. The ability to express herself, even imperfectly, and be understood, was incredibly motivating. Each successful exchange chipped away at her anxiety, reinforcing the belief that she could indeed communicate effectively. Learning how to learn words also involved active recall. Instead of passively reviewing flashcards, she'd try to remember words from memory first, only checking if she couldn't recall. This active retrieval strengthened her long-term retention of new vocabulary. She also diversified her word learning by reading short English articles and stories. Encountering new words in context helped her understand their nuances and natural usage, making them easier to incorporate into her own active vocabulary rather than just recognizing them. How to improve your fluency wasn't just about speed, it was about coherence and cohesion. She focused on using transition words and phrases to connect her ideas smoothly, making her speech flow more naturally and logically, rather than sounding like disconnected sentences. Her listen and practice routine now included listening for sentence structures. She paid attention to how questions were formed, how conditional clauses were used, and how different tenses conveyed meaning, which helped her construct more grammatically accurate sentences. Building confidence in speaking also came from celebrating small victories. Successfully completing a short conversation, understanding a joke, or articulating a complex idea were all reasons to acknowledge her progress and motivate herself further. She kept a simple English journal, writing a few sentences each day about her thoughts or experiences. This low-pressure writing practice reinforced her vocabulary and grammar, and surprisingly, also helped her organize her thoughts more clearly for speaking. The journal served as a reflection tool. Looking back at earlier entries, she could visibly see her improvement in sentence structure and vocabulary usage, providing tangible proof of her progress and boosting her morale significantly. Maya realized that consistency was paramount. Even on days when she felt tired or unmotivated, she committed to at least 5 minutes of English practice, whether it was listening, speaking, or reviewing words. Small, consistent efforts compounded over time. She explored different accents through her listening practice. Watching YouTube videos from various English-speaking countries helped her train her ear to different pronunciations and rhythms, preparing her for real-world interactions with diverse speakers. English talking practice wasn't just formal lessons, it became woven into her daily life. She'd narrate her grocery list in English, read street signs aloud in English, or even sing along to English songs, actively engaging with the language constantly. The more she immersed herself, the less she felt like she was learning, and more like she was living the language. English was no longer a subject but a tool, a new lens through which to perceive and interact with the world around her, a joyful realization. Her confidence grew exponentially when she discovered that native speakers rarely use perfect grammar in casual conversation. This relieved immense pressure, allowing her to prioritize communication over absolute grammatical flawless accuracy, making speaking less daunting. She began to seek out opportunities for real conversations. Joining an online book club, participating in virtual meetups, or even just commenting in English on social media posts became avenues for authentic English talking practice. Each successful interaction, no matter how brief, solidified her belief in her growing abilities. The positive feedback she received, even simple compliments on her effort, spurred her on, reinforcing her commitment to mastering the language. To address how to learn words more deeply, she started using them in her daily practice immediately after learning them. This active application reinforced memory and made the words truly her own, moving them from passive recognition to active production. She also paid attention to collocations, words that naturally go together. Learning "make a decision" instead of "do a decision" saved her from awkward phrasing and made her speech sound far more natural and native-like in everyday conversation. The question, why you should not learn English, had now completely vanished from her mind. The benefits far outweighed any initial struggles. English opened doors to new information, new cultures, and new connections she never imagined possible. Her journey was a testament to the power of self-directed learning and perseverance. She didn't rely solely on formal classes, she actively created her own immersive environment and opportunities for consistent English talking practice. Maya understood that how to learn English was less about finding one magic trick and more about integrating various effective strategies into a personalized, consistent routine. It was a holistic approach that combined input with output. To improve your fluency, she focused on natural rhythm and pausing. Instead of rushing, she allowed herself short pauses to collect her thoughts, which made her speech sound more thoughtful and controlled, rather than hesitant or disjointed. She also learned to embrace nonverbal communication. A smile, a nod, or appropriate hand gestures could convey meaning and confidence even when she fumbled for the right words, making her interactions more effective and less stressful. Her "start talking at home" method evolved into "think in English always." She mentally translated her thoughts, even everyday ones, into English, strengthening her mental fluency and reducing the need for internal translation during actual conversations. This constant internal monologue in English was a powerful, silent form of English talking practice that she could do anywhere, anytime. It was her secret weapon for continuous improvement, subtly sharpening her language skills every waking moment. How make confidence in speaking became a journey of self-acceptance. She accepted that mistakes would happen, and they were part of growth, not signs of failure. This mindset shift was perhaps the most crucial element in her journey. She often reminded herself that every fluent speaker was once a beginner. This perspective fostered patience and resilience, preventing discouragement during challenging moments and reinforcing her belief in eventual success. Maya's story became an inspiration for others. She shared her methods, emphasizing the importance of active listening, consistent home practice, and bravely embracing imperfection as pathways to genuine fluency. Her approach proved that you don't need to travel abroad or spend a fortune to become fluent. The most powerful tools were accessible: dedication, smart practice, and the courage to start talking at home. The journey from hesitant whispers to confident conversations had been long, but incredibly rewarding. English was no longer a barrier, it was a bridge, connecting her to a vast world of knowledge and people. She now understood that how to talk in English wasn't about being perfect, it was about being understood, about connecting. It was about finding her own voice in a new language, authentically and joyfully. Every new English word learned, every sentence spoken, was a step further on this exciting linguistic adventure. Her fluency wasn't just about language, it was about unlocking a new, more confident version of herself. And so, Maya, once timid, now confidently navigated English conversations, a living testament to the power of consistent listen and practice, dedicated English talking practice, and unwavering belief in her own ability to master any challenge.